put this moment here.
Let's hear from the one and only Kate Bush. When we spoke yesterday on the good old-fashioned landline, more about Kate Bush's phone later, I started by asking her how she was feeling about being number one with her hit Running Up That Hill 37 years on, after its use, very recent use, in Stranger Things.
Well, it's just extraordinary. I mean, you know, it's such a great series. I thought that the track would get some attention. But I just never imagined that it would be anything like this. It's so exciting that it's quite shocking, really, isn't it? I mean, the whole world's gone mad.
Well, I mean, you know, 37 years is the longest time I believe it's a song has taken to get to number one. And it's also in America. It's your first ever top 10 hit in the US, which I didn't know.
Yeah. I mean, what's really wonderful, I think, is that this is a whole new audience who... You know, in a lot of cases, they'd never heard of me, and I love that. The thought of all these really young people hearing the song for the first time and discovering it is, well, I think it's very special.
It's a discovery by a new generation. There's lots of people, of course, who have held you dear to their hearts for a long time, who are probably feeling quite protective at the moment, especially when some of their children are saying, "Have you heard of Kate Bush?" They're saying, yes, very much so. But in terms of this song, and for those new audience members, for those people discovering you now, what's it actually about, Running Up That Hill, if you were to explain it to a new audience?
Well, you know, I really like people to hear a song and take from it what they want. But originally it was written as the idea of really swapping a man and a woman, swapping places with each other, just to feel what it was like from the other side.
Yes, and getting that experience.
Yeah.
If that was possible. And it wasn't originally called Running Up That Hill, was it?
No, it was called A Deal with God. I think they were just worried, the record company were worried that it wouldn't get played on the radio, that people would feel it was a sensitive title.
Right. But so is that still how you think of it, as opposed to Running Up That Hill? Because when you've originally named something, and these are all your creations, you can stay wedded to it, can't you?
Well, yes and no, but some of them have had very strange titles that you kind of have a working title that you quickly forget. But yeah, I think for me this is still called A Deal with God.
Now lots more people, new people as well, getting into the song. I mean, it's so widely listened to across social media platforms as well, never mind streaming platforms. Have you listened to it again with new ears? Do you listen back to it?
I never listen to my old stuff, but then, you know, when things like this come along, I'm normally involved in something like, you know, maybe doing an edit or revisiting the track for some kind of other reason. I'm working on it. So, yeah, I hadn't heard it for a really long time.
Yeah, well, I was imagining, you know, people also watching the video for the first time. It's such a beautiful video. You've of course trained as a dancer with movement and all of that. It's just wonderful for people to see again. Of course, in this context with Stranger Things, which I know you obviously signed off on how the song was going to be used, was it important for you that it's a song that helps a female character, that it helps Max?
I think they've put it in a really special place. I mean, the Duffer Brothers created the series, and actually we watched it right from the word go with the first series onwards, so I was already familiar with the series.
You're already a fan at this point?
Yes, very much so, yeah. And I thought what a lovely way for the song to be used in such a positive way, you know, as a kind of talisman almost, really, for Max. And, yeah, I think it's very touching, actually.
Yes, and of course people, you know, especially when they're younger, music does save people, doesn't it? It's so important to people, and that's at the heart of how the song is used.
Yeah, I mean, they have really put it in a very special place, and I think music is very special. It's different from all other art forms, isn't it, in a way? I mean, all art forms sit in their own space, but music has a way of touching people.
Yes, and you'll always remember actually where you were when you heard something or what it means to you. I mean, I was also thinking when I was wondering about why you signed off on it, why you were drawn to Stranger Things, but interesting to hear you're a fan. You know, is there a nostalgia there as well for the 80s? A lot of people loving the show love the fact that it's set in that era.
Yeah, I think it was a great time. I mean, there was some great music in the 80s, but I think it's an incredibly exciting time we're in now. I mean, okay, so it's an awful time on a lot of levels for people, very difficult, but it's also a time when incredible things are happening. Technology is progressing at this incredible rate that's pretty overwhelming, really. But, you know, there's so many advances in medicine and there are positive things. You just have to look a bit harder to find them at the moment, I think.
Well, I mean, if we're just looking at the technology in you, I mean, running up that hill as a hashtag is all over social media platforms. On TikTok, running up that hill's had more than 616 million views. And you were always very cutting edge with technology. It was almost like you were waiting some of the time for the technology to catch up.
Well, that's very nice of you to say so. I mean, I suppose, you know, I was using things like the Fairlight very early, which was a sampling machine, which, of course, now it's common now for that samples to be used in music all the time.
Yes. But then it was not as a synthesizer and a way to make music. Well, it's fascinating to think about. But I was also wondering if you missed the 80s because there were a lack of phones then. And when you did your concerts in 2014, you did ask for people, or rather had a voiceover to ask for people to turn off their mobiles. And it seemed from those who went, people actually did turn them off because they wanted to have that connection.
Well, that was really great that people respected that, because the thing was, you know, we were working in what was quite a small theatre, and I wanted there to be a really strong connection between the audience and everyone on stage. And phones are very distracting. It's a bit different in an open-air concert. You know, it's not quite the same, but we were trying to create an atmosphere with what we were doing. There was a lot of theatre and film involved, and I think it did give a stronger connection to the whole process, really.
Are you on social media? Do you look at it yourself? Are you into your phone?
I have a really ancient phone.
How ancient are we talking?
Oh, it's very ancient, but I like that, you see, because I spend a lot of time on my laptop, and when I go out during the day, it means I don't have to deal with emails, and everyone knows that. So I just get texts and calls on my phone, and it means that I have a bit of peace.
Yeah, that's very... I might start taking that advice and buy myself an old brick just so that I can be out of range. I did also want to check, do you know about Witch Talk, a subset of TikTok? It's inspired by Babushka and your look in that video. There's a whole load of people very dedicated to you in that space. Do you know about that?
No, I don't. It sounds ridiculous.
Okay, that's some homework, if I'm allowed to give Kate Bush a bit of homework. But I also just wanted to bring up your son, if I may, because in that concert that we were just talking about, you did pay tribute to Bertie. He was also a constant presence during the show, singing in the backing choir, on stage, taking part in several of the scenes. You said without him that wouldn't have happened. He's now obviously some years on, in his 20s. What does he make of a new generation discovering his mum?
I think he thinks it's pretty cool.
Yeah. I bet. Is he a fan of Stranger Things as well?
Yeah, we all are. Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, our friends kept saying, have you seen Stranger Things, when the first series came out? So eventually, you know, we thought, okay, let's just watch it. And we watched it and then saw every series ever since. It's lovely because, you know, in a similar way to Harry Potter, where in those early films, they were just little kids. And then as the films progress, it becomes heavier and darker. And those little kids turn into really talented young adult actors. And you have a different connection with something that's moved through years, really, of watching them grow. And have you watched it? Do you watch it?
It's actually prescribed watching in my house. My husband's completely addicted to it, and he already loved you, but was very excited to see that cassette go in, and also have the memory of the Walkman that we both remember very well. And you know, I was also thinking, what did Kate Bush do during lockdown? And perhaps you were binge watching like the rest of us, our favourite TV shows. Was that the order of the day in the Bush household?
Who wasn't? That and gardening.
And a bit of kitchen disco. Are you still into the moves?
Gardening's my thing now, I think.
Well, Kate Bush, it is absolutely lovely to talk to you. Let me just read you one final thing. I did mention some of your original fans, thinking about this new generation finding you. And one person wrote, Kate Bush did not go through Wuthering Heights, run all the way up that hill to make a deal with God, shout babushka for you all to be finding out about her in 2022. What do you make of that?
I just want to say, well, thank you very much. Thank you to everyone, because it's just, it's just extraordinary what's happening, and it's very exciting. And thank you, Emma. Thank you for giving me the time to say thank you to everyone, and,
Well, Kate Bush,
hooray.
to hear your voice is a real treat. Thank you so much for talking to me and talking to our listeners. I'll let you get back to the garden. And the brick, the phone that no one can get hold of you on.
Thanks, Emma.
Kate Bush, yes, anytime, all the time. She can come back, please. I did say that right at the very end of that phone call as she called in on her landline to the Woman's Hour studio. Definitely some moments of my life I won't forget, and hopefully you will feel the same. Laura has messaged in to say, good morning. Regarding the wonderful Kate Bush, I have loved her since she first blessed us with her truly amazing original music. I missed her dreadfully when she became, as Laura puts it, rather reclusive. I'm obviously excited and delighted that she's come back to us. Please, could you ask her now to stay?
I put this moment here.